Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Undercurrents. It appears my guest hasn't arrived yet, so I hope that isn't the case. I really want to speak to someone, but if not, I will gladly share the link to the streaming software on my chat, and maybe we can just do it that way. But let's give him a bit of time. Maybe he's just a bit shy or a little bit delayed, so I am happy to wait for him a little bit longer. But if he doesn't arrive, I'll gladly open it to you guys who are watching at the moment and send through the link. But let's give it another few minutes and let's see if he actually does make it. So, yeah, apologies for that. I can't really control if guests come on or not. I was actually very excited. This particular guest had quite a few questions for me, and I was hoping we'd have quite a good debate flowing from the questions that he did send me. But let's see. Let's see. I'll give another 2, 3 minutes, and if he doesn't arrive, then I will just open it up to everyone and invite all of you to join me on stream if you want to, of course, and then we can take it from there. But anyway, hopefully you had a very good Tuesday. I was only halfway through it, but yeah, mine has been incredibly busy in a good way. I'm not complaining, and I'm happy to answer each and every question that comes my way. And by the way, people keep asking me for my opinion on like current news, excuse me, and I just don't watch or read anything about current news. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, but if it's on current news, I don't know what's going on purpose, by the way. I read current news for Morning Shot every day for 5 years or 4 years or however long it was, and it just like after a while, it just fills me with ick um, to read current news because essentially current news is basically political sniping at a national level, and they don't actually tell you about what's really going on in the country, and it's not something that I'm terribly interested in at the moment, in the slightest. So anyway, that's where we are. And by the looks of things, it seems like our guest is not coming. So, what I will do in the chat, right? I am going to send the link. And if you click on the link, you can actually join me live on air right now. If you want to do that, we'll just click the link really, and you will be brought into my studio. And I'll be glad to speak to you for a few minutes or however long you want on whatever topic you desire. So I think from now on, if the guest doesn't pitch up, instead of me doing a solo Q&A and just repeating myself for the most part, I'll just invite the people in the chat to come and join me. So please do. So click the Riverside link, and it'll bring you straight to my chat, and I'll get a notification here, and I'll put you on the stream, and we can have a chat if you feel like that, of course. Let me know. Let me just say hello to Beaver. Hello to Mr. Robbie Fenter. 1044 is here as well. Hello, hello. John Jarvis, as always. Thanks for joining, John. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And so far, that is all the people in the chat. I know there are a few of you watching that haven't chatted yet, but please do post in the chat or please do join me on the stream. I'll be glad to host any of you, especially if you disagree with me. John Jarvis, I know you want to come on the stream and fight with me. I'll be happy, happy to do that. Happy to do that. All you have to do is click the link. Otherwise, I'm just going to ramble for 30 minutes and I don't know what I'm going to talk about because I haven't paid attention to anything for the past few days. And for those who might be trying to get in, let me know if it works. It should work. But let's see. And if you're too shy, please do post your questions in the chat and I will gladly answer them. Oh, I did forget. Awkward Leon is here as well. Sorry, Leon. Hello to you too, sir. So I just put on a reminder. This is how you join me. Just click the link in the chat. Come on, guys. I can't do this by myself. I'm tired of talking to myself all the time. Let's speak to each other rather. Lazan Budzaya says, let me kick it off. Ramon, you have great respect for India. No, not really. I mean, India was always one of those places where people had these like weird utopian ideals of what India was like with like the spices and Taj Mahal and all that. I think people actually went there and the internet opened everyone's eyes to like, it looks a bit like a shithole. And it does to me. I have zero interest in going to India. I know people who have been to India and they really didn't like it. I know family members of mine who lived there for 2 years and they couldn't really go outside without coughing and spluttering due to the pollution. But I like the government of India. I think Modi is good. I think the foreign minister, whose name I forget, is exceptionally good. And what is good about India, for the most part, is that it shows you that you can have a sort of nationalist, pragmatist policy on what is best for my country and still have friends all over the world, even though those friends are enemies of each other. So India gets cheap oil from Russia, but it gets American tech and it gets like American visas, but also like Chinese weapons, and it's great. Like it's great. Like I think it works really well, and people from all sides respect that. They really do. America's not going to bully India, and China's not going to bully India because it's a big country, lots of potential, and at the end of the day, people understand that looking after your own self interest as a country is vitally important, irrespective of who you side with. And sometimes you don't need to side with anyone. And that's what India is showing to the world. Unlike the EU, for example, which is siding with America to its own detriment. Like we know for a fact, German manufacturing was largely just fake, right? It was fake because it was based on Russian gas and Russian oil, cheap Russian gas and Russian oil. Now that the war in Ukraine and the sanctions imposed on Russia has cut that off to a marginal degree, I mean, they still get some. The German economy is bullshit. Like it's just completely fake. Like they have no base load in terms of energy production for their own industry, which I find crazy. I really do find crazy. So anyway, yeah, be more like India, but I don't want to go there. I really don't want to go there. Doesn't matter how much you pay me. Okay, so John is not set up to join me. Okay, but he won't be arguing. Okay, John, no problem. I see the way you work. So Karen says China blasts India with dam water. I don't know if that's a joke or that's true. I know that they had like a little bit of a tiff, India and China, over the border a few years back, but I've forgotten what that was really about. All right. So Lizanne says she came across a podcast and really don't know who the guy who chatted though. He said BE legislations and how India made it work. What I listened to while I was working was amazing. So one thing about India, and I can tell you based on my experience working in the government for the few months that I was there, India is notoriously difficult to export to. They got tariffs on everything and anything. It's actually crazy. Like we wanted as agriculture, we were like, India's like ripe for like dates and fruit and beef and all. Well, not really beef. They don't really eat that, but all sorts of things. And it's just impossible. They got tariffs on absolutely everything, and they refuse to budge. I assume most of it is to protect local industry, local resources. Excuse me, local agriculture. But yeah, it's notoriously difficult to get stuff into India. Very very difficult. Much more than most countries. China's easier, right? China is much easier to get into than India. That tells you what you need to know. I assume they have industries to protect there. That's why they have those tariffs. So again, it's funny when India uses tariffs to protect its industries, but when Trump does it, oh, it's horrific. Yeah, yeah. By the way, did you guys see Trump yesterday with the Australians? So the Australian Prime Minister is Albanese or something. I don't know what his name is. He's like a real lib that I really don't care about at all. But the Australian ambassador to America said very mean things about Trump. right? And instead of I'll just show you rather than explain it. Right, let's share this, and you'll see how Trump works. I think it's a fantastic way.
In Australia, that it's taken 9 months to get this meeting. Have you had any concerns with this administration, with the stance on Palestine, climate change, or even things the ambassador said about you in the past, the Australian ambassador?
I don't know anything about him. I mean, if he said bad, then maybe he'll like to apologize. I really don't know. Did an ambassador say something bad about me? Don't tell me. I don't. Where is he? Is he still working for you?
Yeah.
You said bad?
Before I took this position, Mr. President.
I don't like you either. I don't, and I probably never will. Go ahead.
So good, right? You don't like me, I don't like you. Like I don't give a shit, right? That's what authority is about. It's like you don't have to go on this fake nonsense about there's like decorum and there's protocols and there's all this sort of stuff that people are like obsessed about. So you can just say, you don't like me, I don't like you, it's fine, whatever. I actually don't care. Trump is the master of that. He managed to make everything nasty into a joke. And yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. When you're in government, you see how much of the protocol is like bullshit. You understand why it exists, but you can never be truly honest with people and with diplomats and foreign ministries and foreign ambassadors and all the rest of it. It's always very diplomatic, but you don't ever get like to the core of what you actually want from someone. So Johan says, you're brave for investing so much into renovating your house. The new Expropriation Act is on the horizon. Oh, that's what you say. But did you see what Cyril said about the Expropriation Act? Right? Cyril, you know, the guy who signed it into law. What did he say about the Expropriation Act? Can anyone have a guess? Let me see if I can bring it up here. And it was quite a wild admission. That's the word to use. Because in essence, he basically says, yeah, I mean, the act is like completely unworkable and basically unconstitutional. Oh, News 24, of course, I'm not going to read that. Sorry. Let me do this one. This is better. So the Expropriation Act, right? Which, as I say, Cyril signed into law. And he admits that, he admits under oath that part of the part of the act are completely unconstitutional. So he's asked the court to read in amendments to correct them. Now, I'm sorry, Mr. President. I'm sure you have a law degree. You should know this. The courts are not there to create legislation. They are there to interpret it. So if you sign a piece of legislation that you admit is unconstitutional, it's not the court's job to make it constitutional. That's just ridiculous. That's just insane. But yeah, so even Cyril the Great is shocked that what he signed was unconstitutional. Yeah, welcome to South Africa in 2025. How much of a shit does Cyril not give about his position, his country, his party, people who support him? The guy just doesn't care. I never met someone who is so aloof in leadership. Maybe like the Cameroonian president who's been in Switzerland for the last 30 years, right? Living in a five-star hotel. That's a true story, by the way. Go look it up. The Cameroonian president is 92, has been living in Geneva or Zurich for the past 30 years. He comes back like once in a while to Cameroon on holiday and nothing gets done. But old Cyril himself, he's just like, yeah, I'll just sign whatever. I don't give a shit. And then he signs whatever, and then he realizes, oh, it's a bit defective now, isn't it? So, John Jarvis, if you want to join, you're listening via speakers, it shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't be a problem. If it's on a laptop, modern speakers are pretty good. If it's on your phone, it's even better. So, come on if you want to. It's worth a shot. It's worth testing it out. Do you believe the courts will actually end the Expropriation Act? Though it's not their jobs to end it. It's their job to figure out whether it's constitutional or not. So if the president has decided that parts of it are unconstitutional, I'm not too sure how the courts will say, yeah, we can override that. Like, I think they'll have to, or they'll say, send it back to Parliament to fix it. That's what they should be doing. And I think that's what they might be doing. I don't see why, if one of the parties signing the act said actually it's unconstitutional, why would the court rectify that? It's not their job to rectify it. They'll just say, okay, fine. If you admit this is unconstitutional, send it back to Parliament to fix it, because the Parliament is responsible for fixing it. So that is what I'm hoping does happen. So Piso Molefe says, I've been watching you and you made a few comments about Europe. Please explain why you feel like the future of Europe seems so doomed and why South Africa should be an option. Oh, this is a very good question and very a question that I love to answer. So I am from Europe, right? I was born there. I moved here when I was three. And I have been a dual citizen, as everyone knows by now, of here in France. So I go back to France once every 2 years or so to see family. And I know lots of people who moved from here to Europe. And I know my wife's family also moved, some of them moved back to Europe, and we go visit them there. And the essential problem with Europe is that it has no underlying foundations for its existence. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. In essence, Europe was the cultural capital, social capital of the entire world for 500 years, roughly. The Industrial Revolution started there. The Reformation started there. Philosophy started there. I mean, really, what Europe has given to the world, Christianity has started, well, became politically relevant there. What Europe gave to the world is just cannot be measured in terms of great ideas, right? And then World War II was, and most importantly, World War One. World War One was largely a fight between different elites in different countries, and who died? Young men who were going to take over from those elites in time to come. So you had millions of people, young boys, mostly dead in World War One. World War II comes along. What happens? You just destroy everything that Europe stood for at the time over a war that, looking back, probably shouldn't have happened in a material way like the way it did. And since World War II, it allowed the US to gain absolute control over Europe, and not the control where like they colonized it, but in terms of like the monetary system, in terms of offshoring manufacturing, in terms of a variety of things that Europe was responsible for, but no longer is. And over the past decade, they've had this mass immigration that has destroyed the cultural and social aspects of Europe. Then you have the EU, which is the superstructure on top with no army and no terms of reference, who just sets insane, costly regulation on absolutely everything. I think a pillow, if you want to make a pillow in the EU, you need to follow hundreds of different regulations to make a pillow in the EU. So you're destroying your manufacturing base. On top of that, your energy is going to be all net zero and renewable and all that bullshit, which is also very expensive, not good for base load, impossible to run industrialized economy on that sort of energy either. So it just seems to me that the Europeans for the past 50 years have just taken these steps that weaken them and weaken them and weaken them. And the inflection point is largely the Ukraine-Russian war, where Russia was supplying cheap energy to Europe, which bolstered the industry in Europe, let's be honest, especially Germany. Excuse me. And now we can see that Germany is just fake. It doesn't exist without cheap Russian gas. And now that there's a conflict in Ukraine and Russia, the Europeans have no idea how to solve it. They have no army to send to supplicate the Russians. They only follow what the Americans tell them to do, which is sanctions. But those sanctions are destroying Europe because Europe doesn't have cheap energy from Russia anymore. Combine that with immigration, combine that with insane regulation, insane lack of innovation, etc., etc., etc. Europe is becoming a Disneyland for the rest of the world. People go there to see the castles built 300, 400, 500 years ago. They're not going there because it's fun. They're not going there because it's a nice place to live. They're not going there because it's exciting, or you can build a business, or you can be commercially active. They're going there because they want to see the fucking Eiffel Tower, right, which was built 200 years ago. They're not going to go see anything modern. They're not going to. It's basically, Europe is basically a museum of Western civilization with no attempt to ever expand the concept of Western civilization. So that's why Europe has fallen. And that's why I think, for the most part, Western Europe is completely dead. And mass migration and the Ukraine-Russian war killed it completely. It was still reversible, but not anymore. And I think if you do have a backlash, as we have seen, like the right-wing populists coming to power, those people can't do anything because the EU says, oh, listen, we're holding like 400 billion euros in debt, like in Italy, right? Maloney comes in, right-wing fascist, etc. And they just tell her, listen, if you pursue all these things or you break the agreements that the EU has with Italy, you won't be able to fund your civil service. Like you won't be able to, we'll just pull all our debt. We will call our debt. And it's impossible to have any reforms like that. So the entire structure of the EU, the entire structure of Europe, the entire insane regulatory overview of Europe, plus mass migration, plus Russia, Ukraine, plus China, like, destroying them every 2 seconds in terms of innovation. What's the point of Europe? Maybe it's a nice life to retire in, but like that's about it. And it's a real pity because Europeans and the European continent has given us a lot as the world. But yeah, for now, I don't see it coming back anytime soon. But as noted, Eastern Europe is looking all right. Hungary, Poland, Estonia, the former Soviet bloc, those countries are looking all right, but they're small, right? They've got populations of between 5 and 20 million people, which is important, but Lithuania, I mean, what can these people do? Good luck to them, but they're small countries. And if you're a small country, there are different incentives that apply there. Excuse me. So that was a bit of a rant about Europe. Hopefully that was useful to some of you. And the Europeans at the moment are trying to pay others to solve the issues. So very interestingly, there was a deal, right, the Italian Prime Minister, Berlusconi. Yes, great guy, Berlusconi. He was like bunga parties, and he owned like TV stations and whatever the case might be. He made a deal with Gaddafi of Libya in the early 2000s or late 90s. I can't remember. Basically, Italy will pay Gaddafi something like 5 billion euros a year or every few years. And in return, Gaddafi would not send any migrants over the Mediterranean into Europe. And that held very well until Sarkozy and the NATO had a defensive bombing of Libya and basically forced Gaddafi to die through sodomy by dagger. And since Libya has fallen, the migrant crisis has become the migrant crisis. Libya was the bulwark to all of that. But yeah, it was destroyed once again by Americans, right? Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, along with NATO, which is funded by America. So America takes a lot of glee in sabotaging the Europeans all the time. And the Europeans are just like, oh yeah, we'll just take it because we're like slaves to the American empire or something. If that's what they want to do, that's what they want to do. But I don't expect them to recover and be proper countries at all. Excuse me. Island. Listen, Ireland, man. I mean, you spend 100 years fighting the Brits to be independent. You become independent, then you let in like people from all over the world coming into your country and building ghettos. Just insane. Again, I can't think of any country in the world ever in history that has succeeded because of third world mass immigration. I don't get it, right? And I'm a person who says, listen, if you take a Nigerian in Nigeria and you put them in New York City, they'll probably do very well. I agree with that. But they must come there for a purpose. What's happening now is you've got a Nigerian in Nigeria bringing in 12 family members and living on welfare, or a Somalian, or an Afghanistani, or a Syrian, or whatever the case might be. How are these people meant to be productive? How are these people meant to assimilate? They just don't. What's the point of assimilating? You got the whole family over in 2 weeks. You get free healthcare, free money, free hotel rooms, free cell phones, free Netflix subscriptions. Well, like, why would you assimilate? Like, it's just insane. And I don't blame the people trying to get in. I blame the people in those countries that allow this to happen. I think it's beyond my understanding of what the benefit is for anyone other than to destroy the cultural and social bonds of a country. Maybe that is the reason. And I suspect it might be the reason. Because if you destroy everything that people like, they will vote for you if you can promise them, pennies on the dollar at the end of the day. If you make people fragmented and atomized, it's much easier to control them. That's the only reason I think why this mass immigration is even considered. I know they would say European courts of human rights, fuck them. Tell them to fuck off. Like, really. Just pass legislation. We no longer see you as relevant. Could be done yesterday. Could have been done 10 years ago. They still don't do it. Anyway. Doesn't South Africa suffer from the same issues like illegal immigration, deindustrialization, high crime, and regulation? Absolutely. Absolutely. But why do I have more faith in South Africa than Europe? Mostly because we don't have a regulatory state. We do on paper, but who actually follows the regulations in South Africa to a degree where it's harmful to your business? So what we have in South Africa is chaos. What we have in Europe is liberal tyranny, right? So if you go to Europe and say, there's too many Somalis here, you go to jail. If you're Operation Dudula and you blockade public hospitals and look for IDs, the police ask you nicely to stop doing it. But you don't go to trial. Like, there's like literally no harm in doing that. Maybe I agree with it, maybe I don't. It doesn't actually matter. But the state has very little recourse in South Africa to solve these issues. So communities are solving them on their own accord. In Europe, it's illegal to solve them unless you go through the political process, which is rigged. So for recourse in South Africa, in my opinion, is much easier than recourse in Europe. Some people may disagree, but yeah, that's essentially my view about why South Africa is better than Europe. But these are great arguments. I mean, why not join me? Why not join me, Tsibiso? Come. Let me just share this link. And if you're happy to, please come join me. I love to talk about these sort of issues. I really would. So just see it, the Riverside link in the chat. Any of you watching, please just click on it and come join me on the show live. I'll be glad to have you. Excuse me. Right, let's see. So Debbie says, our chaos is due to lack of government. Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you spoke to me 10 years ago, I'll be like, libertarian, we don't need government, etc., etc. I think we have lived through that. And I don't think it's worked out very well. So now what I do want is a very strong, unfettered, efficient government that can actually use its leverage to actually pursue these things that make South Africa better. Yeah. The malaise in South Africa actually is a lack of government, not too much government. I know that sounds weird, but I think you might know what I'm saying. We are the testing ground for Europe. In some ways we are, right? In some ways we are. So in 1994, so before 1994, there was like no NGOs in this country. There was maybe the IRR and a few other small ones, the Free Market Foundation, but these were all internally funded NGOs. They had their place in the world, and you may like them or not. It doesn't matter. Post 94, as soon as the black government took power, all these NGOs came in, like wanting to ban guns and wanting to prevent evictions and wanting to dumb down the education system and wanting to change the law on like gay stuff and whatever the case might be. So as soon as South Africa became black controlled and politically led, all these NGOs came in and like just trying to fuck up everything. Like, it's so racist that no one points it out. But we have been a testing ground since 1994. through these NGOs, through these terrible court cases that have prevented people from being evicted, or preventing gogos from getting handguns, or getting poor people from defending themselves using handguns and things like that. Mostly through these NGOs putting court cases in the Constitutional Court. And no, I agree with you in terms of the fact that we have been a testing ground for 30 years. It's time to just like man up a bit and be like, no, fuck you, this is our country. We're going to do what is needed for our country, whether that means buying Russian oil or buying American Starlink or buying Indian fucking whatever, pumpkins. Great, we should do all of those things, but not choose one side to the detriment of the other. It's ridiculous, especially for a country like ours that has no leverage at all. We just had a complete lack of leadership for 30 years, and it really is showing, which is a pity, a real pity. All right, no one has joined yet. Obviously, you guys love me ranting on and on about these sort of things. What is my prediction for the new BEE bill? I have absolutely no idea. And I think we shouldn't care in my view, because how do I phrase this? How about we just don't give a shit about what the government wants, because they really don't give a shit about us. Like everyone, from the richest to the poorest to whatever the case might be. These people are just extractive mafias, arseholes, right? Of course, they want to propose legislation that gives them even more extractive powers. How about we just tell them to fuck off? Just say, no, I refuse to implement this. If I need 50 employees before this triggers, I'll just open another company and put 50 employees in there. Then I'll open another company and put 50 employees in there. Like really? Just work around it. Because at the end of the day, no amount of negotiation or pressure or whatever bullshit works with the ANC. The DA don't know how to handle the ANC. They keep sniping at them all the time. The ANC is just dead set on its own self-interests. And fine, but tell them to fuck off. Like, relying on the court all the time is just hopeless. It's a hopeless endeavor. The courts have been captured a long time ago by people like Julius Malema, who's on the JSC. Why a convicted criminal is choosing judges, only in South Africa can that actually happen. So I really don't know why we even bother or care what the government wants from us. Just say no. Like, just say fuck off. Just say no. Might be nice if we all started doing that. Our president runs to Davos. Yeah, Davos is bullshit, guys. Davos is a meme. Right? I know people who went to Davos. I mean, I was supposed to go before John tried to fire me. I wanted to go to Davos to see what it was about. It's a talk shop of morons. And really, like, it's a false flag. It's a psyop. But it has very little power. So don't even worry about Davos. What are my... in South Africa, where would you consider living for the next 20 to 30 years? I think the Garden Route and the Western Cape in general, I'm very bullish about that. If South Africa continues to decline, the Western Cape is just so much more attractive. If South Africa is working and building nicely, the Western Cape's already 10 years ahead of them. So overall, as an attractive destination for jobs, for life, for work, whatever the case might be, the Western Cape is by far the most attractive. Pity about the people there, which is why I don't live there at the moment. But long term, maybe the Western Cape. But I would not in the city. I want like a little farm within about an hour from civilization. That would be great. What are my thoughts on SMWX? I think that's Sizwe and Poffer Walsh's channel. Mighty Jamie. Mighty Jamie is a moron. Like, really, that guy is so stupid. He should go back to Zimbabwe, right? He flees Zimbabwe, and then he comes here and wants to impose Zimbabwefication on South Africa. It's ridiculous. Time to go back. He needs to remigrate, or he needs to be deported immediately. Sizwe and Poffer Walsh, on the other hand, I met him 2 or 3 times. I find him quite affable. He's quite a nice guy. He's quite pro. I think I violently disagree with a lot of things that he might believe. But at this stage, I don't know what he believes, because I find him a bit soft on his guests. He doesn't ever express what he believes about something for the most part. And he's like just nods in agreement with Helen Zeller, Becky Tzede, Paul Mashati, like whoever's on the couch, like he just nods in agreement. I like your show. I think it's not as exciting as it could be, which I understand, right? I've interviewed hundreds of people. You want to let the guests speak, make them comfortable. You don't want to push too much. But if they're politicians, like you really have to double down and be like, not rude, but like forceful. But I like your show. I like him as a person. As I said, I met him. And yeah, that's it really. I don't think about him that often, if I'm honest with you. But I think he's a nice guy. I think we would disagree on many, many things going forward. Right. It's nice visiting the UK in the place as far away from cities as possible. Yeah, of course, of course. In South Africa too. Magubus Kloof, part of the Free State, part of KZN in the Midlands. I mean, it's just beautiful spots, like really beautiful spots. If you want to see a country get out of the cities, I agree with you. But like Jeremy, if I was Jeremy Clarkson and I had hundreds of millions of pounds or however much money he has, and I wanted to run a farm and I get paid for it, UK is a great place. Like you're not going to get like Somalis coming or whatever. You're not going to get third world immigrants coming to Diddley Squat Farm, I think, because he lives far away from all of those things. So some places in the UK are beautiful and are magnificent. I used to watch a show when I was younger called, what was it called? The countryside getaway or something, where people from the city were buying houses in the countryside. And it's just some of the most beautiful stuff you can think of. Like the idyllic English countryside is just a wonderful place to be. But the fundamentals of England are completely broken. So, yeah. So Dylan says maximum legal non-compliance. There is a term that's a friend of mine made up. I can't remember what it's called, but it's something similar to that. Legally non-complying to whatever government bullshit. And I agree with that. So that's what most people should do. And ironically, people keep saying, oh, this is just a white thing. Listen, guys, I went to Vosloorus, right? I've been to townships across Gauteng because I used to do law and my clients used to live there. So I had to go and see them and whatever the case might be. When I grew up in the south of Joburg and you had to go to Vosloorus, it was like shacks, mate. Like it was like really bad. I went there about 5 years ago next to the palm. I don't know. Yeah. And man, like there's just so much commercial activity, so many new houses, so many new businesses. So like, okay, it's probably all not zoned properly and all that sort of shit, right? But really, I mean, if you want non-compliance with state law, just go to townships. Black South Africans do this better than anyone else, I would argue. To a huge degree, a huge margin. There's so much cash. There's like 600-700 billion rand turnover a year in terms of the black market GDP in the township economy. So, I mean, I made a video on Morning Shot a while ago. I said the white business guys like just become more like the black business guys. Like just don't care what the state says or does or is able to do to you. Unfortunately, no one, I don't think anyone took my advice. But if you want to see state proofing, I mean, go to a township. Those guys have it locked down like you can't believe. Some of them, not all of them. I'm making a general point. There are exceptions. All right, what are my thoughts on Penwell? I met him. I just find him a bit strange. He blocks me on Twitter, then he doesn't block me on Twitter, and then he calls me a racist, then he texts me to say come onto my show, and he's not well upstairs, so I don't rate him that much. Besides YouTube, what's my actual career? I don't have one at the moment. I don't. So before Chief of Staff, I was on YouTube. I was a director of an NGO, not a foreign funded one, a local one. And I had like various projects that work out. I've always been I hate the term entrepreneur because it makes me sound like I was very successful. I've never been overtly successful, but I've always tried things. Some were good, some were bad. Keeps my head above the water, feeds my family. My wife works too. But for now, I don't have a career at all. I'm going to arbitration in December, and I want to get sort of that sorted out because I don't want to start a job or ask for a job and then like I'm in the news again for being like a recalcitrant, like whatever, or like he won whatever money from the Department of Agriculture. So I'm just taking it. I'm not taking it easy. I'm busy with quite a few projects now, but they're not making me money. So I don't have a career. My background is legal. I was a legal, not an attorney, but I didn't write the exams, but I've got my LBs and all that. Are you ever scared to go out in public? No. Funny enough, I was a little bit concerned when that whole thing came out last year when I was the chief of staff and people were like, oh, he loves Putin and he hates gays and whatever, same bullshit. And I really thought, oh, fuck, man, like I can't actually go out and whatever the case might be. You can see people looking at you, like for a few months, they're like, oh, is it? But you can see like those questioning, oh, is it that guy? And whenever they come out to me, they're like, oh, are you Ramon? Yes. Oh, I love Morning Shot. Why aren't you on there anymore? I'm like, oh, okay. Like, don't you read the news? Nah. So it was quite, you get over it. I was concerned for some reason, political assassinations or things like that. I wasn't certain it would happen to me by any means, but if you're in the news and they'd say like all these things about you, like you could be a target. So I took precautions. I didn't go into hiding or things like that, but I was concerned that, I don't know, crazy people would want to shoot me or something like that. But no, nothing like that materialized. And now I don't care. I'll go outside all the time. I'm off with my children or my wife, or whatever the case might be. So people look at me like they sort of recognize me, but people are, for the most part, very polite, overtly polite. So, yeah, I'm not worried about going out at all. Excuse me. Yeah, Jan says Black South Africans don't care about regulations. Yeah, of course. They're completely free market. I mean, I wouldn't say they're completely free market. I don't think they pursue this as a sort of ideology. They're just like, I need to make cash. And the punishment for not following the rules barely exists. So, yeah. So Henry says, how do I pick guests? I don't pick guests. Guests pick me. So I have a public calendar out, which I'll share with you. Excuse me. And people just choose their slots and they come on. So if you want to join me, you're more than welcome. Let me put the calendar in the chat quickly. I am booked out in November for the most part, but if you want to join me, just click on the calendar and book a slot. And I'm very happy to accommodate all of you or any of you who would like to join me. All right, Scoop says it is a bit late, but he's saying hi. Hello, Scoops. Thank you for joining. Appreciate it. And for those who wish to join me in a physical sense to come onto the show, please do. Just click the latest link here that I put in the chat, Riverside. I don't know why you guys are so scared of talking to me. I'll be glad to host you anytime. There's 54 of you. Surely one of you would like to come on. It's fine if you don't, though. I just find it a bit strange that most of you are quite happy just looking at my face and up my nostrils for some reason. Right, so there's a question here. Do I take international guests? I take anyone who books a slot, guys. I take anyone who books a slot. That's why I got my calendar up in public. Like, just book a slot. I'll speak to anyone. If Elon Musk books it to like whatever the street, whatever the petrol pump attendant down the road, I'll speak to anyone on the show. I want to speak to ordinary people. I know Elon Musk is not ordinary, but you know what I mean. So don't ever be worried about, are you good enough for the show? This is not a contest about what sort of views I'll get. I just want to talk to people, because when you learn, I read books, I listen to podcasts, I watch other shows. I like to learn about the world, but it's very rarely that I listen to people that I disagree with, because I think that the foundation of their arguments are incorrect, right? If the Marxist is on a podcast somewhere, I'd probably won't listen to it because I don't agree with the foundation. So anything that flows from that is probably incorrect. But if they book a slot on the show and I'll speak to them, hey, we could both learn something. So there is no requirements for the conversation. There is no format. The only format is we go live and we chat. That's it. That's the only format I have. I don't have any airs and graces about anything else. So yeah, that's the only format is just come on live, be honest, have fun, disagree with me, agree with me, it doesn't matter. Like the guy I had last week, Dean Haystack. Like he came on with this big idea of like sort of conscious capitalism, Ubuntu capitalism, and I just thought it was just a bit limited in its application. But you guys who loved it, who watched it, you're like, yeah, this is fantastic, cool. That's the point of the show. If you want to plug something, come onto the show. If you want to talk about what business you're running and how it works and why people who watch the show might like it, take the opportunity. There are no guardrails here. I just want to speak to people. Scoops has a dentist appointment. Well, you're probably better than this, right? Enjoy your dentist appointment. They can get relief. All right, let's see. So Dylan says he's been looking at Cape Town as a Western Cape as an option to at some point to buy land and develop, but it's still cuck expensive. Yeah, it's out of this world. But I don't think it's going to get cheaper. I don't think the Western Cape will become cheaper. It's a bit of a bubble now, right? And we could all agree that it's a bubble. But if the rest of Africa doesn't change, it's just going to carry on being a bubble. It's a bit like the Australian housing market. A friend of mine wrote a book on the Australian housing market. It's like, it's a bubble. It will pop in these circumstances, which is correct. But those circumstances never come up because the government's incentive is to increase property prices all the time. Because the people that vote for them are older and have properties in Australia and they want to sell at a profit or whatever the case might be. So, yeah, I think the Western Cape will be a bubble for a very long time, at least the next decade. How would I balkanize South Africa? I wouldn't balkanize it. You can't control balkanization. That's silly. Balkanization happens when there's no authority preventing it from happening. So I would argue balkanization has already happened for the most part. If you go speak to farmers in the Free State close to the city border, they don't call the police when there's stock theft. They call their buddies over and they go find the stock that was stolen. That's balkanization already. So you can't have an orderly process of balkanization. It happens naturally if there is no objection or no countervailing force to it. So yeah, hope that answers that. All right, none of you want to come onto my show. Okay, I get it. Weirdos. All right, let me just check quickly. Have I missed some questions? Not that I can see. All right. Do you think they're going to disarm us? Again, guys, these things only work if you allow them to happen. I don't give a shit what the ANC says or does or what the government does. They have no way to enforce anything. So, for example, a friend had a problem with his prepaid meter at home, electricity, city power, Joburg. And he was like, it took like, if you went through the official channels, it took like 6 months. You had to pay this and you had to pay that and schedule this and schedule that. A contractor from City Power came over, did it in 2 hours, paid him $3,000, and then he was sorted. At the end of the day, what do you want? And what is the best efficient way to get it? Simple as that. Who cares? If they pass a law tomorrow to say, oh, you can't have a gun for self-defense. Okay, good. Good luck getting everyone who has a gun for self-defense. It's impossible. What they can do is if you shoot someone, they can add that to the charges. Great. That's assuming you get arrested in the first place, of which there's a 90% chance you won't be. And assuming you get a guilty charge, which is a 99% chance that you won't be. So, like, the calculation is this. I need a gun to protect my family. I bought it already. I've had it for many years. I carry it all the time. And the government tomorrow says, oh, you can't have a gun for self-defense. Okay. Make me. My calculation is I need a gun. I'll continue to use it. The government says no. Okay, fuck you then. Who cares? Like, what can they do? Are they going to come to my house and take my gun? Cool. I'll go buy another one. You know, don't be so tightly wound about what the government wants. Like they really don't matter if you don't allow them to matter. They really don't. And yes, maybe I have a good life or I'm privileged or whatever bullshit. I agree, but if you ask, if you both, I never go to bed at night thinking, oh, what will the ANC do if they want to do? I just no, like fuck you. I don't care. I met all of you. I met all the ministers. I met the president. Very, very unremarkable people. They're very unremarkable. So, yeah. Best guns for home defense is the one that you can carry every day without an issue. I don't give a shit if it's a 22 long rifle, whether it's a 9mm, whether it's a 45 ACP, whether it's a 40, whether it's a shotgun, whether it's a whatever. The best gun for home defense is the one that is available and ready to use. So pick the one that is most comfortable for you to carry, the one that you can do all the things you want to do with it. Don't be caught up on purity testing around a Glock versus CZ. That's all bullshit for the most part. Just get the one that is easily accessible and you can't use. So for me, I use a 9mm. I got a CZ and a shotgun. And yeah, they're easily accessible to me. Some people are like, I know you need an AR-15 with a laser and a scope. Okay, cool. Good for you. But for 90% of people, they don't need that. Do you carry one up? Absolutely. All day, every day. Always one up. I think in the situations in South Africa where crime is like almost sudden, like a hijacking, like you're setting a robot and people are just like right there, you need to act very quickly. I got someone who wishes to come on. Excellent. Let's let them in. Let's let them in.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hello.
Hello. Are you
Hello.
well?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you are live, my friend. How are you? I can hear you very well.
I'm doing well.
Can you hear
And
me?
yourself? I'm not sure what's going on with my camera. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly fine.
All right, no problem. I just wanted to have a bit of a discussion. I watched one of your videos a while back with your discussion with Mr. Franz Grenier discussing about the future of South Africa. And there was something that you guys mentioned about how the South Africa is gonna eventually disintegrate into different communities who have, private security, private this, private that. Um, but we also need to realize the practicality of the Balkanization of South Africa, and we need to look at how
Of
realistic
course.
it is, right? And if we look at the current makeup of South Africa, a lot of people, besides I would say the Zulu population, are not very, I don't know, they don't have it within them, that drive to actually take it anywhere above, you know, privatization, So this idea of future states in South Africa and future political systems and not Franz Krenner, it was Ernst Root, sorry. You're having that
Okay.
discussion about, South Africa, the different entities, different countries, the provinces, the Afrikaners will have this, the Zulus will have that. And we need to understand, or something that I've been thinking since then, is that there isn't any drive to have that type of a future within South Africa. Thinking about you need certain ingredients, if you get what I mean, for that to happen. And it's just not
Of
there
course.
within South Africa. South Africans are just, I don't want to say lazy. They are satisfied, should I say? Not satisfied. They are, just go with the flow type of people. And there isn't any of that
Uh, mhm.
energy, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with you, right? But balkanization is not something that is, and I think this is something that I also don't speak about very often. Balkanization is not a planned project for the country by the people of the country. Balkanization is an incentive structure for the elites, minorities to pursue. So, in essence, a Gulf estate or a township with its own, militias and security groups or vigilante groups is a form of balkanization. Unfortunately, in the Cape Flats, the gangsterism is a form of balkanization. When there is zero state power, that power is filled with something else. In rich areas, it will be private security. In poorer areas, it may be gangs, it may be taxi bosses, it may be a variety of other things. So it's not, it's very important to understand balkanization is not a planned effect of something. It is a consequence against an opposing force. And we have no opposing forces. So people are going to balkanize in a way that befits that particular population or society. So for some people, it's going to be just an increase in mafia, increase in gangsterism, and the gangsters will control. They'll become the police and the courts and whatever the case might be. In other areas, it's going to be a private security group with a high wall and electric fencing and your Pilates studio in the middle of that estate. So that's what balkanization is. It's not planned by any means.
I understand that, but with when you were having that conversation with
Mm,
Ernst, you were talking about, uh, the more than that, different governments and different, there will be the Afrikaners who eventually have their own um, government, then the Zulus and KwaZulu Natal and all those things. So more than just a, oh, I have an electric fence now and a solar panel, but actual real state force within each population. Do you get what I'm saying? And I just doubt that. I really do doubt that.
yes,
I feel like Ernst, he has a good vision for South Africa, but it's completely unrealistic. Maybe we can talk about the Zulus, right? If we look at the current changes within South Africa, all of it is up to them. The only reason why we have a GNU, the only reason why we have such weakened ANC is because of the Zulus. It's not because of, AfriForum. It's not
correct.
because, you know, I'm a colored myself, right? Or I'm half colored, half Swana.
Hmm.
But, they are the only population that actually have the type of drive to have some form of state changes. You get what I'm saying? Everyone else, they just go with the
Sure.
flow, right? And so when we look at, things like his vision and that discussion that you had with him, it's completely unrealistic unless you have a mental shift, which they do not have. And I think no one has it except for them, unfortunately, right?
so, so I agree with you. I agree with you. I think that the Zulus have had chronically poor leadership since 1994. And the national government has pounced on that and made them basically like the biggest SASA grant beneficiary in the country. So they give them tens of millions a year, and the land on which the Zulus reside is sort of controlled by the Zulu kingdom, but also controlled by a minister in parliament. So there's been a very clever subversive element to the Zulus where, excuse me, where the authority of the king has been diminished greatly over the course of the past 30 years. But tomorrow, if the Zulu king says, listen, I got my militia, I know what the Inkonyama Trust land is, I'm going to take control over it. My MPs are going to patrol it, and we're going to have like a border, and we're going to control what comes in and comes out, and we're going to have different agreements with different provinces or other institutions around the world. They can do that relatively easily if they wanted to. But I think they have been corrupted by cheap money for a very long time, and that's what has weakened the Zulu royal family for a very long time as well. But to me, it's a question of authority, not a question of you don't need like 60% of people to work on it together for it to come to fruition. You just need the top 5% to do it, and then it will come right. What AfriForum and Solidarity has done for the Afrikaners over the course of 30 years, they only, how many people work there? A few thousand? But they've sort of developed the idea of African identity through these institutions that they created. No other group has done that. No other elites have done that. So I mean, those are my thoughts. Happy to
Yeah,
hear what you have to say.
I'm not sure if it's strong enough, if you get what I'm saying. They have a very small population. They have
Hmm.
you know, their identity. Of course, they are proud of being Afrikaners, but not nearly as much as, a Zulu person is proud of being Zulu, for example, right? And so the
Sure.
type of potency that they have is not as strong as, for example, what a Zulu person in KwaZulu Natal has, right? And so you are unable to affect change, right? Power, it's not something that you are given, it's something that you take, right? And so, in order for
Correct.
example, an Afrikaner sitting in the middle of Pretoria to say, I don't care about the government anymore, I'm gonna completely abandon it and just follow what AfriForum tells me, right? It's not gonna be there. Unlike if a random Zulu person in KwaZulu Natal says, okay, I'm gonna follow what the Zulu royal family tells me going forward, right? There's a the potency is not as strong, and so you see the effect is not as strong. For example, if AfriForum said tomorrow, um, Afrikaners, let's stop voting for the Democratic Alliance, do you actually think that most Afrikaners will switch their vote to whoever AfriForum says? I doubt it, right? But then when it comes to the Zulu
Mm.
royal family, if they say, okay, my people going forward, we are abandoned, like with Zuma, right? He said,
Mm.
obviously he's not part of the royal family, but he said, going forward, we are done with the ANC, and now we are voting for NK. And look how his people came and actually supported him, and that's what affects change. That is what power is, right? And so they have it, right?
Correct.
But I just don't feel other populations in this country actually have that type of power to affect change. Do you see what I'm saying? And so it's like besides them,
I
I don't
fully agree.
much of a future
Yeah.
outside of what
So,
we currently have, permanent GNU.
yeah, I actually fully agree with you in that way, and which is why I say, balkanization is never planned. It's just an effect of poor governance. But balkanization can be terrible for people as well. I'm not thinking that, oh, we're going to have all these like little micro states and they all get along and they're going to have like whatever, trade agreements and like, no, 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 that's like completely not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is political power is going to be decentralized to those areas and those communities. It has to, because there's nowhere else for it to go. What that looks like in the real world is for some gangsterism, is for some a Zulu kingdom, is for some um, Chatsworth during the July riots. It's not a utopian dream. It's just an effect of a lack of governance. And if there is no plan to deal with that, as you are suggesting, which and I think you're correct in suggesting that, you're just going to give power to those who want it the most in that particular area or that particular region or that particular society. So it could be very benign power or it could be very overt malevolent power. But it's not something that the population has to agree on. It is just someone who will fill that vacuum as soon as possible.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I feel like when it comes to that conversation with Ernst, it's stuck in my mind, and I just don't see the practicality besides what you're saying on an individual, maybe a community level, but above that, like a whole province, maybe. I don't see it happening. It's gonna be very, 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 low level. It's not gonna be wide, if you get what I'm saying. A huge population is gonna be my
Absolutely.
community and my neighbors, and that's it. It's not gonna be something like what you have, where an entire province is able to affect real power over a space, if you get what I'm saying.
Correct. I fully agree with you. And I think that has been a misunderstanding of that conversation for a large part. Balkanization is not orderly, it is not wide ranging, and it is not at all representing a modern state as we know it today. It's going to be messy. It could become very violent in some areas, and the power will be given or taken by the ones who want it the most, who are often not very nice people. And how they choose to use it is going to determine the success or the failure of that particular region or town or township or whatever the case might be. So, I mean, I hope that clarifies a few things.
No, I understand. No, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Very brave of you. All these other people just sit here looking at me. That's
I
good for
would
you to
have
come
my
on.
camera on, but for some reason it's not working. But you can see my name is there. You can all follow me there. But yeah, all right.
Okay,
Have a
brilliant. But why not join me? Book a slot. It's in the chat, my calendar. Book a slot. I'll be happy to have you on for much longer.
all right, no problem. Have a good day. I'll see you later.
All right. Thank you, sir. You too. Have a good one. Cheers. And there you go, everyone. We finally have our first caller with excellent questions. I must be honest. I had to dig deep a little bit to get those answers. So, okay, guys, it's already 1 o'clock. It's unfortunately time for me to go. I've got other things to do, namely, I have to go to the gym. Yeah, I have to go to the gym. I've decided to have a six pack by the time I get to 40. So I got 3 years left. No, 2 years left. 2.5 years left. So I'm going to be working on that. So I don't have a career, but I'm going to have a six pack. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it. And I do hope that tomorrow my guest will actually come onto the show, unlike the gentleman today, but hopefully he had a good excuse. But thank you for watching. Thank you for speaking your mind in the comments. And yeah, I appreciate you all. I'll see you all very soon. Tomorrow, midday, same time, same place. Have a lovely afternoon.